In the evening, the noise of blackbirds fell into the marsh. Black bodies angled against the sky, and in loose skeins, knit and curled, their wings throbbed the vernacular of this valley. Maybe 70 came low. Small masses dropped, ash-like and quavering from the dusk, with startled cries into the cattails. Roosting under that thin sky, they must think often of flying again. Making mounds. One day each year, Utah desert silence crackles with the conjugal flight of ants. A court of virgin queens and drones has waited, impatient, held back only by the anxious doting of workers. But out of stillness springs sex, and the pallid air is thrown into winged orgy, each young queen mating over and over with separate drones to store the genetic diversity that will sustain her colony for decades to come. Overwhelmed by passion, the drones fall dead, and she flees like Brigham Young to find a home for 10,000. She touches land, her wings fall. This is the place. Years later, in dry desert meadows, a small mound may rise. It will be set like an altar, centered in a clearing, absent of grass or brush. Deseret. Pogonomyrmex occidentalis, the western harvester ant, is a hymenopteran powerhouse. They erect mounds over their meters-deep colonies so large they show up on satellite imagery, and then cover them in dark pebbles to regulate heat for efficient movement and work. Seeds are gathered from as far as a quarter-mile away for storage in well-drained granaries. Undaunted by size, the ants chew to death almost every grass, flower, or shrub, growing in a barren radius around their colonies. For easy harvesting, though, they leave two fruitful species behind, lone grasses clustered in the vacancy of their mounds. The ants build what suits them, generate the conditions necessary for their survival, create a milieu on their own terms. I can think of only one other species that modifies habitat so completely. Your friend and mine, Homo sapiens. I have an eccentric expat uncle who lives in Verona, Italy. Once he dragged me along to an informal soiree hosted by Italians, attended by Belgians, Spaniards, and Brazilians, and crashed by us. Watching the evening unfold, he shook his head and remarked, "All we ever do is live our culture. The Belgians just want to go out to eat and be on time, the Spaniards to find a good club, the Brazilians to make their own fun. The Italians want to host, and we Americans just want to hang out and play music." Cultural generalizations aside, my uncle had struck on a deep vein of truth. We're all enactors of our own native culture, living it and manifesting it in whatever we do. We're like ants, meticulously clearing around our mounds, unconscious of the force that drives us. We are homemakers, but unlike the harvester ant, our habitats are many and disparate and diametrically opposed. When a rancher irrigates, builds fence, and runs cattle, he's making a set of specific choices about how he'll interact with the land. But he's also allowing his culture, traditions, ancestral knowledge, all that he has learned and unconsciously absorbed, to play through him, to enable itself in the work of his hands. And when the environmentalist walks in a degraded landscape, she feels real emotions: loss, anger, hopelessness. But she is also an emissary of Aldo Leopold's ghost, the societal presence of the Sierra Club, and her parents' love for wilderness. She too brings to the table a desire to shape the land via the values of her culture. All too often, those frames of reference run up against each other. The West is caught in culture wars. And while there are other dimensions to the conflict, issues of land management, cattle, and forestry, the fight over the West's future can be framed as a battle between opposing worldviews, backgrounds, and traditions. Once, when I was about 10, I burned ants. Imagining their red bodies in my sleeping bag at night, I set a trap of dried grass and Swedish fish. When swarming shapes had blackened the pale stalks, I dropped a match and they curled and lay still. I didn't know how to be in that place, how to see the complexity of their lives. We both tried to inhabit that sandy patch of sage, me for a few days, the ants for a lifetime. Because I insisted, my culture, my habitat, snuffed out another. Ours was a conflict in miniature, a petty symbol of the greater discord sweeping the rangelands of the West. Maybe one day, our collective dwelling will amount to more than a wisp of smoke and dividing lands etched across the land.